Mom's parents were from Germany. Her father from a town called Geiselberg. Her mother was born in Pirmasens, eventually moving to Heldersburg. And all these things, they look far apart on the map. They're not. Big towns today, Geiselberg has 865 people, Heldersburg 2,176. Pirmasens has 40,000 people. It's a little bit bigger population, and it's like a big town in that area. Her parents married in Geiselberg and stayed there until they emigrated to the United States. That's the house that her father was born in. It's over 200 years old, still in the family. They have a newer house out in the front. It was given some landmark status. That's her father in 1918 when he was in the German cavalry under the Kaiser's rule. They emigrated on a ship called the Hansa. In 1923, they got to Ellis Island. That ship had its problems and had kind of vibrations going through the whole ship, so eventually they took 2 smokestacks off and had only 2 instead of the 4. In a note from my grandmother, we find that that voyage was 10 days crossing in that thing. It only had 4 decks and carried over 2,000 passengers. Third class must have been fun. When they got to Ellis Island, there was lines and procedures and many, many people clearing. In the time Ellis Island was open, they say that over 20 million people were processed through there. A little bit more about Ellis Island, if anybody wants to read up on it. It's a small island keeping the people from landing until they're processed. The shipping manifest had an error. It was fun finding them. Their name was misspelled. In 1939, her father became a citizen of the United States, and in 1940, her mother became a citizen. I don't know why the year's different, but they were very proud of that achievement. That's her grandmother that came over with them, and there she is smiling. She didn't like the big city, so she bought a farm just across the border in Wisconsin, and she stayed up there by herself. Mom was actually born in Cicero, Illinois. She was born using a midwife, and it was the midwife that actually named her Bernice. Apparently my grandmother was out of it, and the midwife told the doctor that Bernice was the name. They decided to leave Cicero, and in 1929, before the big crash, they bought the house on Paris Avenue. That was to be their home for the rest of their lives. That's a 1934 picture from Grace School. Mom is highlighted in yellow, smiling. That's her when she graduated from grammar school. That's the front of a postcard that her father sent her from the penitentiary in Kentucky. He was down there working. He was not an inmate. On the back of the card he writes and he tells her to act more like a girl because by then she was already known as a tomboy. That's the high school she went to for a very short time. It's Lucy Flower. It's across from the Garfield Park Conservatory, built in 1911, still operating. She didn't stay there very long. She ran away from home and got a job with the Lehrman family, taking care of 5 or 6 kids, one of whom was deaf and whom I'm communicating with now. They just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary this week. Her first job, real job, was at the currency exchange. That's when she learned to like money, like to be a cashier. Then she got married, September 6th, 1942, Santa Maria Adolorata Church, which at the time was extensively Italian. Copy of their wedding certificate, dated 1943. Something must have happened to the original. That's her in-laws and her parents. And of course her grandmother with her smile. My father wound up in the Army, and I found a letter from him to my mother apologizing that he wasn't there to celebrate their 7-month anniversary. So I guess he was shipped off quite early in the game. Mom did her part. She wound up working at what today you call O'Hare Airport, but in that time period it was called Orchard Field. They built C-54s. As a matter of fact, they built 655 of those things. Mom was a riveter, just like this gal. The plane was used as military transport, and it was also used by presidents like Franklin D. Roosevelt. You'll find one in the National Museum that he had as the presidential plane, and other dignitaries. That happened in 1948. 6 years later, folks, so it wasn't a shotgun wedding. Mom then went to work for Jewel Food Store back in the 50s, and they used to look like that. Then eventually they turned into a Jewel Asco. She worked her way up from a cashier to head cashier. Unfortunately, her store was robbed 3 times while she was on duty. The last time she was held at gunpoint, and it didn't do her mental health any good. So from there she went to Asco Drugs and remained at the Asco office in Franklin Park for the rest of her career.
I'll be with you in apple blossom time. I'll be with you to change your name to mine. One day in May, I'll come and say, happy the bride that the sun shines on today. What a wonderful wedding there will be. What a wonderful day for you and me. Church bells will chime. You will be mine in apple blossom time. I'll be with you in apple blossom time. Then what will you do? Then I'll be with you to change your name to mine. When will that be? One day, maybe in May. Then what will you do? I'll come and say to you, dear, happy the bride that the sun shines on today. Then what a wonderful wedding there will be one day in May. What a very, very wonderful day.